Thank you for joining the Sharpest College Football Podcast. This is our Week 3 review. I am BuckMetrics, joined as always by Robert Martin. Robert, you are a political pollster, and on election nights, sometimes all the returns don't come in, and sometimes the little results trickle in a little bit. From East Baton Rouge Parish, I just got word of another pick thrown by DJ Lagway, just to bring to it even half a dozen.
Yeah, pretty crazy. We're going to talk about that game a lot, but I think it's so weird that a game in which LSU won and covered the spread felt like a loss for both teams. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That is how you get to that double plus money game that I talk about in the conference previews. It felt like nobody won, right? The actualization, it feels like nobody can win. All right, if you are new, this is our glossary. Take a screen grab of this and save it so you know with the terms that we are talking about. And welcome. And as always, if you are returning, thank you for being loyal, and you are, by definition, brilliant. All right, my Week 3 takeaways, they're going to be in the form of a question since that worked so well last time. Robert, when Georgia Tech ran the triple option, it was very specific, and it almost seemed like you went there if you only had to. Then Jeff Collins took them away from the triple option, and they were just a mess. Georgia Tech, they have a very specific identity, probably born very much from the fact that their head coach is an former offensive line coach. You can see here after in the post-game presser, he was getting a little emotional after that win. This is a big win they had over Clemson. No surprise here as I grab my laser pointer. Where are you? There you are, sweetheart. No surprise out here. Haynes King outperforms Cade Klubnik. I don't know. For everybody out there who's been asleep basically since the middle of July, this has been one of the themes that we've talked about. Cade Klubnik, it's just flat out not that good. Georgia Tech they are very specific in what they do. I feel like I'm talking to a kid who's struggling in high school. There are several ways to be cool. If you're a wide receiver, USC is a very cool school for you. If you are a very physical kind of guy, Georgia Tech is a very cool place. There's more than one way to be cool. Is Georgia Tech now a cool program? I think that they can actually turn the corner on recruiting here.
Yeah, I think so, right? This is... on one hand, it's funny, right? A big emotional win, and it is a big emotional win, but this is actually just 2 straight years they beat Clemson now, which is hilarious. No, it's a fun school to play at. I love Georgia Tech as an underdog. Every single time they're an underdog in some game, I absolutely love them. I think, man, this is great. They're a fun underdog. You love them as an underdog in games like this. Like, I bet this game weeks ago when it was 9.5. So for most of this game, I didn't even really care. It's just like, all right, cool, whatever. I'm going to make money on this game anyways. I wanted Georgia Tech to win for many other reasons, but I was just kind of, oh no, if this happened, yeah, okay, we're fine. But yeah, no, it's like, I love them at that case, but the thing is, like, look, and you could see it from the box score there. They were up 10-0 in this game, and they just didn't put Clemson away, right? Now, okay, you can make the argument, it is Clemson. You shouldn't be able to put, quote-unquote, them away. They were one of the favorites for the national championship game. They were ranked, 3rd or something, some insane number at the beginning of the season. Cade Klubnik was one of the favorites for the Heisman. He was one of the favorites to be taken first overall. All that is very clearly done, even well before this game. But, again, they're not really this kind of dominant team now. Again, maybe it's just an underdog mentality, and you think Clemson is a better team because that's what everybody thought. Clemson was for some reason ranked going to this game. So maybe that's what people thought. But again, I love Georgia Tech. They're a really fun team to watch and a really fun team to root for, but only when they're in that underdog status. The second there's expectations put on them, they're somewhat less fun. That's what I say. But no, this is a fun program, and I'm assuming next year Clemson will just be ranked 4th out of habit by the AP. That's just what they do. But
yes,
they're not really that good. We need to really seriously talk about, and we're going to talk about AP later, but like, Clemson is not what it used to be. It is not nearly as strong as it once was. They're not near, like, you could keep saying that the guys they have are like amazing and first round NFL picks, but they're not. And I'm sure whatever quarterback they run with next year will be super overhyped as well because it's Clemson and it's Dabo. But they're not that good at this. They're not great at recruiting. They haven't really. The last good recruit they had was Trevor Lawrence. Yes, Trevor Lawrence was the last quarterback that they had that was good. Outside of that, been pretty much it. It's been a very downhill trend since then. So, no, you're starting to see Georgia Tech rise. You're starting to see Florida State rise. Even Miami. We're talking about Miami later. But you're starting to see the ACC not be just Clemson's conference anymore. The others are rising up, and it's fun to see the others take it to the old leader here.
Yeah, it felt like this whole Georgia Tech thing was largely a product of Haynes King, and this kind of win. And maybe I'm just partial to Key also. When they beat Florida State last year, after that game, I just, God, this guy is awesome. You can tell this is the kind of guy players would love. And after, I don't know if you saw the post game interview with him, man, I love this guy. I think that they can actually get like Haynes King was a cast off, let's be honest, from A&M. They could probably get like a high 3 or 4 star kind of quarterback that can really be the next level. God bless Haynes King for playing hard. Gamer, I guess is what we call him. I think they can get like the next level kind of guy. And you know what? In that area, there's got to be a ton of quarterbacks that would be a great fit for what they do here in terms of being almost the exact opposite of my Trojans in terms of being like super physical and not really doing the stretch the field stuff, but just winning a fight in the phone booth every week.
Yeah, and I think that's a point, right? Which is that, like, you found someone who just loves the sport, is just a gamer, and that gets you there. But once you start getting those on-field results, and then you're able to go to boosters and raise more money, and then you're able to then recruit better, you're able to offer a better NIL deal to some of these kids, then all of a sudden, then you're not dealing with, oh, okay, we grabbed this quarterback that we thought was value from this one random school, and now he's here. It's like, we got a 4-star, and we paid a decent money for a 4-star we really liked somewhere. And you just start upgrading. Again, it bears like remembering that Georgia Tech just a couple of years ago was awful. Like, not last year, obviously, but a couple years back, this was the basement dweller of the ACC, one of the worst teams. And again, just a massive rebuild here under what's the name? Is it Key? Brett Key, right? Yeah, Brett Key. I was supposed to say Brett Pry, but no, that's a different. No, we're talking about him later.
That on Saturday too. Yes.
But no, again, this is a school that should have more resources, but the thing is, the better you do on the field, the more resources you're going to get. Honestly, this is just the beginning. Georgia Tech could be a very good school in a very strong school in the ACC, or maybe even the SEC, or maybe even the Big Ten in a few years. We'll have to see. But again, this is the thing where it's if you're good now, when the ACC explodes like a pinata in 4 years, then you're going to get picked up by someone good. So Georgia Tech might be a really fun team to have around it, and maybe a really cool team for the next couple of years here.
Yeah, good point about the next round of realignment there. All right, before Texas played UTEP in just an absolute barn burner, my apologies if you had to watch that game. Sark was asked about if Arch is injured. I'm sure everybody has seen the video of him throwing against San Jose State and just totally grimacing. Congratulations to Sark. He basically said, as you can see here, if you're watching on the video here, he asked the questioner, he said, what, did Arch say that? He said, no. Then 10 said, Sark says, look, I don't know. I've never filmed in you guys while using the bathroom. So I don't know what kind of faces you're making when you're doing that. Now, congratulations, Sark. You won the press conference exchange that way. I would maybe caution you that you might want to give your quarterback a cover. Since he had an apex of 9, that would be a single-digit 9. Outplayed by former USC freshman, former Boise State freshman / sophomore, Malachi Nelson, with an apex of 30. This just sounds like a great game if you missed it. My gosh. A lot of bad quarterback play here.
I did not see this game, but I was box score watching this game, and I was like, oh, Texas is going to blow this out any minute now. Mm-hmm. Oh, any minute now. They're going to... And it just never happened. And it's like, why is it like... I can't remember exactly what the sequence was, but it was like 3-0, 7-0. It was just like, what is happening in this game? And an apex of 9. First of all, what the heck is he... This is incomprehensible. It doesn't even... Like, what? I don't even understand what he said. I understand what he's trying to... But he's... Okay, yeah, when you're using the bathroom, you make weird faces. Okay, but that's not... He's playing football. What is happening? I don't understand. Okay, cool. You successfully deflected the question of your quarterback is injured. Good job. But, he's injured. Okay.
A+ on shutting off the questioning, though. Got to give him that, right?
Okay, sure, but if he's injured, then rest him. What is wrong? Does he need season-ending surgery, and we're just hiding that? But why? Again,
Yeah.
people. There's going to be questions about his career going forward. If it's no, he was just fine. He just makes weird faces sometimes. Like what? That's not a defense. NFL scouts going to be looking at this and be like, was he injured? No, he just makes weird faces. Like, hey, I don't like either of those things. Then so he's bad and he makes weird faces. That's two negatives. I don't understand why we're not talking about this. It's again, I'm fairly sure every time a new line, like every week, FanDuel puts up a new line for Oklahoma, Texas, and just it gets smaller every week. I'm fairly sure we're gonna end Oklahoma as the favorite here at this rate. Like
I can't
straight
believe
up.
they're not right now.
To be fair, it hasn't come online yet this week. So I don't know.
Okay.
But it was like I remember it was like 10.5, and then I think I grabbed it at 7.5, and then last week it was down to 6.5. I can't imagine it's more than 3.5 now.
I can't see how Oklahoma's not favored.
Yeah, I mean it's a big
I
game and whatever. It's dumb, but yeah, no, they should be favored. And if when Oklahoma beats Auburn this week, yeah, they'll be favored. But I don't know. Yeah, this is very weird. But Texas is very lucky that they're able to just fly under the radar because they've just been crushing bad teams, but also not crushing them particularly well. Because if you're supposed to be crushing a team, you're not. What was the score? 20-0 or something? Like it wasn't.
Yeah,
even,
the finals 30-9 or something like that. I mean,
yeah, that's extremely mediocre against a Conference USA team. Like
I was fortunate to tune in just when they were booing Arch off the field towards the end of the first half. Now, Robert, I know that the one question that everybody wants me to ask you is what kind of faces you make on the toilet, but the real question here is, this is the second year we've seen this. I'm just going to say, it looks to me like Sark is mismanaging a quarterback injury. Ewers last year was good, a little better than Haynes King this year, before he hurt his oblique, and when he came back, he was not the same. And this is the second year it looks like, for whatever reason, his quarterback is hurt and it's not being played right. Apex and 9 against UTEP is not good. Plus, he thinks like he got over with the whole bathroom line. Again, A+ for shutting down the questioning with that, but I'm worrying, like, we've seen how do I say this? I think this program has seen its apex under Sark already.
yeah,
Probably thank you, Bijan Robinson, as much as anything. This doesn't look good. This is 2 years in a row where he's former quarterback coach at USC, was the all-time passing yardage leader for a while at BYU as well. So this is his thing. This isn't like he's mismanaging a safety or a linebacker here.
yeah. Couple of things I would say on that too is that if Archie Manning is injured, and we don't know because again they won't tell us, but if he is injured, the question is, when was he injured? Was he injured against Ohio State? Was it before that game? Because he didn't play great against Ohio State either. Now, I remember a couple weeks ago, I think it was versus San Jose State, people started noticing the screaming out when throwing. So it's possible he was injured during Ohio State. Maybe it was even before. Maybe this is just getting worse week after week, which would tend to make some amount of sense. But if that's the case, if he was injured against Ohio State, that all of a sudden puts Ohio State up in question here.
I was thinking about that today while I was swimming in Newport Beach, the jerk from California said.
Yeah, like this is the thing. And again, Ohio State plays Washington, not this week because they have a bye week after their really tough schedule of Grambling and Ohio. But they play Washington next week. I'm gonna watch that line. I'm very intrigued to know what that line is gonna be when that comes out. I'm very fascinated with that line. So I would, if that game was a lot closer than expected, it would not surprise me if Ohio State is actually not good, and that's what it is. But we'll have to see.
Not like top 10 good, you mean? It's not like they're a 4-8 team.
No, not 4-8, but
yeah.
A 10-2, 9-3 level, right? If Texas was nowhere near as good, then that win, which also did not look particularly impressive, is now even less impressive if Texas isn't even that good, right?
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's the defense. This is the second year in a row. This is why we might have seen Apex Texas under Sark. It's the defense that is again carrying this team, now even more lopsided than last year. And on that topic, I just thought about this because I make a big deal about this in the conference previews. I forgot that Kirk Ferentz is an old offensive line coach because you think his teams at Iowa, you think defense. He just actually set the record for most wins by a Big Ten coach. Congratulations to him. Is this kind of like the peak of what you're looking at for this use Sark as an example? If his defense is going to keep on dragging it along and his offense just keeps on having problems like with shaky quarterback play and mismanaging the injuries and a running game that's not as good as it used to be when he first came on board, which is a big problem. Is this kind of like what we're looking at for the as the peak of what Texas can do? If it's basically the defense that keeps on carrying them, it's like a more exciting a Kirk Ferentz where okay, you might have some years when you're close, but that other your own side of the ball is going to be what's really holding you back.
Yeah, it actually is. It is crazy because again, we really don't think of Kirk. We really don't think of Ferentz in offense. That's not the thing we think of here. So it is crazy that he was an offensive line coach in the NFL. Now, keep in mind, not an offensive coordinator. There's a bit of a difference, not a complete difference, but a bit of a difference. But no, it's crazy that this is where it is, right? Like, it's possible. And Texas has been relying on that defense for a while. This is not just this year that Texas is relying on the defense. It was last year. It was the year before that as well to some extent. Like, their defense is really what keeps them in this. And actually, you could say the same about Ohio State as well. That the Ohio State defense last year was elite, and that kept them in a lot of games. I think it's very weird, and I would really like to see what happens if for someone like Iowa or even Texas, what happens if all of a sudden their defensive coordinator gets a job somewhere? What happens? What happens if you hire away Iowa's defensive coordinator? What happens to Iowa? I'm very curious about that. I want someone to do that now just so we can see what happens. But yeah, you almost wonder if there are people who are the head coaches aren't actually the people keeping this program afloat. It's just someone who's really good at defense.
Yeah, I almost had something to talk about that with Duck this week. That'll be in a future episode because I might be seeing another example of that. All right.
This is amazing.
Yeah, this is the second week in a row that Brian Brown has proven it. This time he basically went head-to-head. He way outplayed DJ Lagway. Now we've got a data point here between Byron Brown and Garrett Nussmeier. Everybody's just losing their mind over how awesome Garrett Nussmeier is. Against the same Florida defense, I will remind you, at Florida, Mr. Brown had a better apex than Nussmeier had at home. I think the returns are in. Is Byron Brown like a top 4 SEC quarterback? Top 3? I'm not even joking, Robert. I'm serious.
Yeah, actually, no, okay. It's important to caveat that you said SEC, too.
Yeah,
that's very important because in the SEC, okay, you will list Lagway and Nussmeier as quarterbacks in the SEC. You've got Joey Aguilar. You've got Gunnar Stockton.
Previously, Missouri's doing very well.
Yeah, I guess you have Jackson Arnold. You have Marcel Reed at Texas A&M. Taylor Green.
Yep, that's a good one. He's hit his ceiling, I think, though.
And you have
Austin Simmons isn't there yet. Sorry.
Yeah, Ty Simpson at Bama.
Yeah.
But I don't even. That's a very fun exercise. But like rank the SEC quarterbacks. I don't even know. But yeah, through any sort of intrinsic principle, Byron Brown is a better quarterback than Nussmeier. That's just any sort of intrinsic principle he is, just straight up. And it's insane how bad this went. This game was like field goal. It was so bad. And honestly, and there's more so to talk about this game. It felt like both teams lost that game. I mean, for you to win at home and cover the spread, that feels a lot worse than it actually was. So it felt like you lost the game, even though you actually technically won and covered the spread. And it's very weird. And again, for me the only reason you even covered the spread was because of a pick 6, which very much helped. And that basically screwed up anybody with a 7.5 or a 9.5. So yeah, that was great. Good job there for Lagway for that pick 6. But no, it's really funny because this can actually be basically a pseudo victory lap for me. Because remember, did I not say, oh, everybody's Lagway so good? And I'm like, yeah, but we also said the same thing about Anthony Richardson. And you're like, no, it's not the same thing. But apparently it is the same thing now. I mean, he can complete passes. He's a bit more accurate. He is. And to the other team as well. But yes, but he is still more accurate than Richardson. Like 33 out of 49, not good, but that's still better than what Richardson was doing. Because he was basically chugging at 50%. But still, 5 interceptions, that's much worse. No, Billy Napier is very clearly on fired watch. It's just, some reason LSU's third-ranked team in the country. I don't get that either. That makes no sense to me. But
they do have 2 wins over Power 4 teams, one on the road. Maybe they were not as good as anticipated, but still, there's a lot to be said for that. Not a lot of teams have that resume, right? You got
Yes.
people playing Lindenwood and Long Island and these kind of teams. They've had two legitimate Power 5 opponents. Neither a threat to win the conference, but still, and one was on the road.
I guess. Even though both those teams have 2 losses, I guess they are still better in terms of resume. But like this LSU team is just waiting for something bad to happen at this point. Like you're just waiting for that bad loss. Like you're the number 3 ranked team. Like you're the least secure number 3 ranked team in the country probably ever. Where you're like, oh, this is just going to go really badly at some point. Like,
no, did you miss the beginning of the season? I think Clemson was in the number 3 spot, right?
That's also true too. Yes, but no, it's I don't know. This is if you're an LSU fan, you cannot be very happy right now. That's all I'll say. And even a Gator fan, obviously, both people had a very rough Saturday.
I'm in the top 3. I'm undefeated, and I'm unhappy. And people aren't noticing how overrated my quarterback is. I think I'm delighted. I know that I might turn into a pumpkin soon. Boy, I know it's early. I know a lot can happen. I'll just say right now, if you had to say, okay, which conference gets more playoff wins this year, Big Ten or ACC, I'd take the Big Ten and I'd lay 180 just right off the top of my head for that action.
I start doing minus 1.5 spreads for that. Do you mean ACC? You said ACC. Do you mean Big Ten or SEC?
No, Big Ten and SEC. Pardon me.
Oh yeah, Big Ten SEC. Oh yeah, no, 100%. I'm still doing minus 1.5 spread on that too. Yeah. Give me the 1.5 spread plus 200. Oh yeah. This is very clearly like 2 Big Ten teams in the championship game. I think that's very clearly the path we're heading down.
Unless stay tuned.
There is another.
All right. All right. How about this for a hot take? I'm going to be very specific with my tense here. Is, not was, not has been, is Barry Odom a better coach than Bill Belichick? I want you to look here if you're watching the video here. This team, let's not forget how bad Purdue was. I think their only win last year was over an FCS team. They won 11. They completely gave up. Completely overhauled the roster here. They're 2-1. Look, they threw 3 interceptions against USC. They look like a real football team, though. They look like more of a football team than North Carolina. Let's not forget North Carolina actually went to a bowl last year. They were 6-6. Maybe I called this out last week as a false positive with a win over Charlotte. Guess what, Heels? I don't even know what they are. The Monmouth? What is I forget their mascot here. But Monmouth outscored more points against Charlotte than you did. So congratulations on that. Monmouth, I don't know. You're Canadian, Robert, so you probably speak a little French here. Monmouth is French for my mouth. You know that, right?
Is it actually?
I know.
No, I don't think so. That'd be like,
it translates that way, but that's not what it is.
Yeah, they do polling. So
they do.
Again, you beat the pollsters fairly. So good job.
Look, Purdue just looks like a more put together team right now. They had much more roster overhaul, coming from a much tougher spot too. I liked the hire of Odom before. I really like it now. Honestly, I thought that he was more to a degree. But UNLV's defense was awesome, so he's definitely a proven guy. I thought there was I thought he was going to really miss Brennan Marion, who's now coaching at Sacramento State. But this offense looked functional too against USC. Clearly more ahead right now than what North Carolina stands. I'm going to say, yeah, if I have a job opening, I'm talking to Barry Odom. I'm not talking to Bill Belichick, and that's not even close.
No, 100%. And I really wouldn't trust. I don't trust this North Carolina team. I think this is sneakily a bad team. Beating Charlotte barely, and then, okay, you beat Richmond, good. But they got absolutely dominated by TCU. Their defense was horrible against TCU. And to be honest, I'm fairly sure that Charlotte and Richmond did not have good offenses. So they did not test that defense in any way. And it's so sad because they play UCF this week. And it's like, I really want to bet against them, but at the same time, do you want to bet on... You can't do it. You can't actually bet on UCF. You can't bet on Scott Frost. You can't ever do that. I think Scott Frost is getting 6.5, but I feel like you have to bet that. There's no way Belichick should be favored over Scott Frost.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what this actually seems like with Belichick? They always say you never want to meet one of your heroes in real life because they'll just disappoint you. This kind of seems like the college football actualization of that, where it's like, shoot, this is just not fun to see. You can probably leverage it and make some money, but yeah. Monmouth Hawks, I was looking up on my phone, by the way.
Barry.
So, yeah, Barry Odom. Congratulations. You, in a short time, have passed Bill Belichick as, today, a better coach. All right, you've got a couple of takeaways here that involve, I don't know, if this is geometry lessons? Yes. Walk us through this.
So basically, yeah, and we called this, but basically it's really funny. The last 2 weeks, I've straight up just said South Florida's spreads are just like the inverse bell curve, the bimodal distribution. And you could see that. And I bet Miami first half -10. That was great. Love that. And the -17.5 full game. Love that as well. Not even close. Like, it's literally, they completely destroyed South Florida. And all these people that were hyping South Florida, like, they could be the G5. No, like, they beat a mediocre Boise team, and now, even based on what Florida did this week, I'm not even sure. Okay, yeah, Florida's bad, but okay, is UCF good? Okay, sure, they're not a horrible team, but like, they beat up on a bad Boise team and a potentially really bad Florida team, and they just got absolutely crushed here by Miami. So I would not, like, again, UCF. Probably, I don't like, if you can get, basically I'm saying there's value on and someone else to be the G5 representative rather than USF. I think USF is probably massively overvalued on that. But also, I think this is a very important lesson. We've talked about this graph. I just want to talk about this. It's a bimodal distribution. When you can see on the right here, the graph here. So what happens is the red is the bell curve, which you can also see there on the left. And actually, just a quick point about the bell curve, because you talk about the standard deviation. So basically, within one standard deviation of the median, the middle part there, it says basically meets expectations, so within that. Then one standard deviation above is above expectations, so like covering the spread by a score, and then exceed, and like excellent performance, that's like covering by 2 scores. And then it's in the other way, it's below expectations, it's not covering, like missing out on the spread by a whole full score, and then by 2 scores, right? So that's, the bell curve is theoretically how spreads are supposed to be. You put up a spread. It's more for NFL games, but it's basically like, we think that this team should be favored by 3.5. So that means half the time they're going to be better than 3.5. They're going to win by more than 3.5. The other half of the time they're going to win by less than 3.5. That's how the bell curve is supposed to work. But last 2 weeks, and we've called this, and it's very important to learn this lesson in terms of if you can identify when a spread is not a bell curve, when not a normal distribution, when it's a bimodal distribution. And that goes there, right? Where basically it's like either they win, or it's a very close game and they could outright win the game, or they get blown. And I think if you're able to adjust that, because again, if you're betting a 17.5 spread, I think you need a team to be competitive or not. But the thing is, if you correctly identify, hey, there's a better chance that this team gets blown up than it is, that spread is like, there's a way that works with a 3-score spread. But there's also versions where Miami blows out South Florida, and that's exactly what happened. So I bet on the outcome. I bet on what people would view as a tail outcome, like Miami covering by multiple spreads. They viewed it as a tail outcome. I viewed it as the second most likely outcome, with just the other most likely outcome being a close game. I viewed it as, I thought the tail was more likely than the middle, and I bet it. And I think that's a very important lesson for people to have in spread betting, especially in college when you can identify games where that median. Because again, the thing is, it's supposed to look like the bell curve, but even if the sportsbook has something bimodal, it comes out as a spread, but that spread should look like a bell curve. But in actuality, if it's bimodal, and as you can see there, it's a little small, but it says mean is the same and median is the same.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, it's like the spread, it's still a 17.5 spread. Whether or not you think it's a bell curve spread or a bimodal spread, it's the exact same. So that's what I'll say.
That's the one utilization you have of mode, right? As much as anything. I would also say that's really interesting. The one thing I will say, though, still, I would say the best betting opportunities are in a bell curve environment where just basically you and I have a bell curve that's shifted over 7 points from the market, though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's also lots of value in that, too. But again, and I think that's where we find value, where it's, they think the curve is at 7, we think it's closer to 3, maybe 10 or something. Like when we get value, like that's nice too. But I think this is in a similar way where maybe the median and the mean comes out at 17.5, but in our books, we have it more in the 20s. Our bell curve is shifted the other way, and it's closer to the tail probability of their bell curve, right? So Again, there's a lot of fun things you could do with this, but this is an important lesson for the spread betting on this.
Yeah. All right. Then you got a chart that even mystified me here.
Yeah, so basically, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later. There was two coach firings this year here on the right, UCLA and Virginia Tech. They were fired in week 3, and both of them massively underperformed the spread. UCLA was 15.5-point favorites. They lost by staggering, I think it was 25 points. So that is a 40-point difference from the original spread. That was great. And then Virginia Tech, they were 5.5-point favorites. I actually saw 9.5 at some points, but I think it closed at 5.5. So the ESPN says it was 5.5. And then they lost by a staggering 19 points, which is a 24-point underperformance from the spread. And it was interesting because I remember looking up, I was doing scoreboard watching, and I saw Virginia Tech was down some insane number. It was like, was it like 19-0 or something at some point at half or something? And I'm like, oh, they're gonna fire.
Yeah.
It's done. I saw that. I'm like, oh, they're gonna fire the coach this week. Okay. And so I was thinking, I'm like, okay, let's look at past firings and see if there's any sort of kind of trend here of if a team gets absolutely blown out, and if we can maybe find that line where there is actually a line where it's like they get blown. If a coach is on the hot seat and they underperform the spread by so much, maybe we can figure out if there's a line here. So last year, the first firing was actually in week 8. It was a lot later than this year. And a lot of them are pretty close. Like, for example, East Carolina was only about 1.5 different. Southern Miss was a 9-point underperformance from the spread. Again, these are only coaches that are hot seats. A lot of these had been like underperforming for the full year, and as the year dragged on, they kind of got rid of them. But you can see here at the very tail end of this, a rash of people massively underperforming the spread and getting fired. For example, Charlotte was 1.5-point favorites, and they lost by 35. Tulsa was 13.5-point underdogs. They lost by 33. North Carolina, 1.5-point favorites, lost by 20, and West Virginia, 2.5-point underdogs, lost by 37. So I think we're starting to see a kind of pattern here where if you lose by about 3 to 4 scores in a game you should be competitive in and you're on the hot seat, that's when you get fired. And again, this is very important. Obviously, this isn't a particular like betting thing per se. It's just the fact that if you're watching a game this weekend or in the next couple of weeks and you see a team massively underperforming the spread by about 3 scores, maybe a team in blue, and you say, oh wow, they're 7.5-point underdog this weekend against the in-state rival, and suddenly they lose the game by 28. Maybe that coach might get fired. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm looking up. This is a really good point. I'm looking up an example here as I Google what I'm trying to talk here. Because there's one example that, Nebraska paid an extra $7.5 million to fire Scott Frost after he set the standard, because I think that they were like 3-score favorites against Georgia Southern, and that just made it untenable. I think when if somebody, I forget who it was, made a really good point. They said once you're on the hot seat, you're never off the hot seat at that school. And you just need one of these just messes just to put it over the edge. It seems like Biff Poggi wasn't working out. Kevin Wilson was not working out. Mac Brown, I think. Yeah, Mac Brown. That was interesting. I don't know if, I think he wanted to stay. Yeah, he said he was coming back the next year too, and then he did that, and then they said, yeah, no, you're really not. Neil Brown, the thinking was that he was okay until that last one. It was at West Virginia too. So that's really interesting. I never thought of it that way. What else is interesting? Oh, good.
Yeah, one more fun kind of thing on this I will say. On last year, Week 12, Temple and FAU, they played in Week 12. Temple was 2.5-point favorites. They won by 3, and both coaches got fired. I don't know. I didn't watch that game, but something very clearly happened in that game. They were like, we both need to fire our coach.
It was just, I think the key point was you didn't watch that game.
Yeah.
It was just discretion on your part. I was going to say Herman and Stan Drayton had both run their course there. The same thing with the Ball State. That was just a matter of time, literally. So even these ones that it isn't, I mean, it was well overdue, I think, as much as anything for them. Okay, yeah, that was interesting. We'll definitely update that as, I don't know, when Billy Napier gets fired. We'll just be brief. All right, this is the segment where we become college football Karens I want to talk to. So, Robert, I don't know if you heard, I think we maybe exchanged texts about this, about UCLA lost to New Mexico. Some great context here in The Athletic here about, let me grab my pointer here. I like this. They said, look, Not only did UCLA give up almost 300 yards rushing, but it was basically to 2 transfers from an FCS schools and a guy from Sam Houston State, who, if you don't know, dear listener or viewer, had a horrible offense last year. They were all good on defense. So I like this, Robert. This is what I would call good reporting. It's good context on something that's happened, right? Now, who did this? This is Stuart Mandel. Let's just hope that Mr. Mandel, look, probably a promising young writer with a good future ahead of him, as long as he just stays in his lane and sticks to reporting, right? No. As we all know, Deshaun Foster was fired. I have to point this out, Robert. Stuart Mandel, when he did his breakdown of this, what does he say here? He said, there's no NIL pot of gold at UCLA. There's complete fan apathy. Gee, that's interesting. I wonder why anybody would think it would be any different. Who would have such an opinion? Oh, you know who it would be, Robert? It would be Stuart Mandel in 2023 when he gave this hiring of Deshaun Foster a B. And what did he say? He said, and I apologize, folks, this is the last time I'm probably going to talk about this since it's finally done, but you have to repeat it. What does he say right here? The former Bruin running back star, Deshaun Foster, will galvanize UCLA fans, unless he causes complete fan apathy instead. Going back to the breakdown 2 years ago, Mr. Mandel says, he should also be able to convince some donors to open their checkbooks. Which I guess happened, except for there's no NIL pot of gold here either. Last chance I have to bring this up without just being an absolute dick. I also want to point out here that ranked right below this hire was a guy who I think you might have noticed won a big game on the road this week, Mr. Mike Elko.
Yeah. So the thing is, it's really funny because this is probably the last time you get to use this particular clip. And it's funny that Texas A&M got this amazing road win that's like amazing, and it's just right there, right below praising. It's so funny. It's a fitting end for the slide, basically. But no, it's really funny seeing Stuart Mandel argue with Stuart Mandel from 2 years ago. It's great. But no, it's at the time, a couple things I want to say. One, I remember now, I'm going to lightly paraphrase myself here because I'm fairly sure I said something like this. I said, I want to bet New Mexico against UCLA. I can't believe it, but I'm going to bet them, and not just the spread, the money line. And I also said, I'm waiting for the line to get higher, and then I'll just unload on it. And I did, and wow, that was great. It wasn't even, here's the thing, and this is the fun thing about college football, right? Like in the NFL, you're sweating like a 3 point, like you're like, oh, I bet I got a 3.5, and it's up to a 7 or something. No, I bet a 15.5, and they won by what, 30? It's not even. There's some times in these games where you just look at the score and you're like, there's literally no way I can lose this bet. It's they need to score 29 unanswered points in the fourth quarter, which they wouldn't even do that because after 3 of them they're already winning. So you're fine. It's so crazy. Love this game. But no, it's really funny that he was mentioned as a better hire than Mike Elko. Mike Elko potentially in the driver's seat to go to an SEC championship game / win the SEC. And UCLA is 0-3, and he's already fired in his second year. So this sport is great.
Yeah, not only did Texas A&M miss out on Deshaun Foster, it's also great to see that he said Mark Stoops is really the play here for A&M, and that's why he dinged him, because they get Mark Stoops, who seems to be trying really hard to get fired here as well this season. Also want to talk to the UCLA admin. So this is what Bruce Feldman does best when he goes through the coaching candidates here. Now, he always has one, and I can tell you exactly who it is. You might be able to guess. He always has, when he does these, he has one clearly that he does as a favor to an agent that he owes like some kind of favor to, in terms of, I'll put your client on this list even though it doesn't matter. For example, he actually had Kalani Sitake on the USC list after they fired Clay Helton. It's like, yeah, that's really not going to happen, my man. Couple things. I want to talk to the UCLA administration, number one, because great quote here. Apparently the recently new somewhat chancellor at UCLA, Julio Frank, he's promised to get involved in this hire, which I think if I have a bad athletic director, that probably scares me even more if I'm a UCLA fan. So you had to get rid of Foster, but I'm very skeptical of, like, they usually don't do good at hiring anyways, and now you got this guy coming in here who thinks that he knows better than everybody else. Martin Germond, the athletic director, sets a low bar, but I just still don't know if I want a chancellor there to really muck things up. So that's not encouraging. And then Feldman goes through his list here. He says his front runner is Danton Lynn. I'm just going to go through these names real quick, and then I'll just give you a sentence on each. Dave Aranda, Kalani Sitake, Tosh Lapoy, Tony White, Tommy Reese, and Jason Eck. Danton Lynn, first of all, look at, I'm going to try to keep this brief. Danton Lynn, I read, is the second highest paid assistant in all of college football. He's in his third year as a defensive coordinator. By that regard, he would be perfect because this is right out of their playbook. Oh, we know this guy. He was here for one season, and he's never been a head coach, so yeah, let's hire him. I also doubt they can match his salary because if he's making anywhere near Jim Knowles' money, he's probably too expensive for them. Number 2 here, Dave Aranda. Robert, there are 2 schools in the Big 12 that have by far more resources than the rest. It would be Baylor and BYU. And you've got these 2 guys here. If Dave Aranda is available, it's because he didn't succeed at Baylor. Do you want a guy who basically has such a big... And I like Dave Aranda when I read about him. He seems like a good dude. Excellent defensive coordinator. Seems like kind of in that weird territory where he's a really good coordinator and probably not meant to be a head coach. Do you want a guy that's coming from a program with a huge resource advantage and he couldn't get it done there except for 1 year, and that's who you want? That's why he's available. Kalani Sitake I would actually like. I don't think he leaves. One thing that we stumbled upon again and again in the preseason previews was how private schools have this huge advantage now going forward to the NIL era, and BYU and Baylor have that head and shoulders above the rest of the conference. They actually signed Walker Lyons, whose brother plays for USC and who Lincoln Riley really wanted as a quarterback. BYU got the highest rated basketball recruit as well, who I do the USC basketball podcast, and the host there said, this guy can play any position he wants. He do whatever he wants. He's that good. So I don't think Sitake's leaving. Tosh Lapoy is the Bruce Feldman, I owe your agent a favor, throw in. I wouldn't even want him as a DC. Tony White again would be another. It fits perfectly because number 1, he played there. I didn't realize that he played there. He was that Tony White. There was a badass Tony White that played in the late 90s. He was really good. Fierce linebacker. I didn't know it was this Tony White. I just put that together. I've loved him for a long time. We talked about him. Did a good job at Nebraska. Did a good job at Syracuse. Did a good job at San Diego State. He's awesome at Florida State. And he's never been a head coach, so perfect for them, right? Because that's what they do. Tommy Reese, guess what? Never been a head coach, good offensive coordinator. And then you've got Jason Eck here, who has all of 3 games as an FBS coach, 0 experience in Power 5 since he played at Wisconsin. And this is just like the dumb guy angle of, oh, you know what? Hey, this guy beat us. Maybe we should hire him. UCLA, sorry, the video just went crazy. You're not learning your lesson. You still stink because you have idiots making decisions, and it's not going to get better. They're going to screw this up, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, probably, yeah. I mean, we can come up with a list of, really good coaches that they should hire, but they're just not going to do it because it's all the certain buzz and names. We have to make a big splash and all this stuff. Love Jason Eck, though. It's just like you what? All right, you want to work here? That's you. It's like in football, right? When you can't rough the kicker unless you touch the ball first, and you touch the ball, you can break his leg basically, and it's fine. It's like the same thing. It's okay. You can't have this job unless you beat our head coach and fire him. At which point, then you can have the job. Yeah, it's really funny, right? But no, I don't understand why you pick. I don't know. I think they need to take some time to think about this. A lot of those, Oregon could probably very likely going to the CFP, Florida State potentially going to the CFP, Cleveland Browns, the season lasts a lot longer. Baylor, BYU, I don't think they're going to the CFP. Dave Aranda is constantly on the hot seat on Baylor, so I'm fairly sure if he left for UCLA, Baylor fans would be happy. And Kalani Sitake, again, he's okay, but this year's going to be rough for them. They're not particularly great this year. Again, I think UCLA needs to just think about this for a few months before they do anything. They got time. Just don't rush into anything, guys. You're good.
I will tell you this. There is actually one name that frightens me because he would recruit very well. He's a proven guy. He's in the area. He scares me. If I'm just using the idiot's guide to game theory, this is the one guy that they should hire because he scares me as a USC guy. And I guarantee you they're too freaking dumb to find it out. So I'm not going to give up the name yet. Here's a hint, though. I mentioned him already in this podcast. How about that? Yeah, all right. If you think you know who it is, just hit me up in Twitter. Hit me a DM with a DM here. All right. Thank you for letting me go on my little sermon there. You want to talk to...
Yeah. This is great. Notre Dame is still ranked, and this is, I'm going to completely swerve because I'm sure people are expecting me to rant about why Notre Dame is ranked. I actually have no problem with Notre Dame being ranked. They lost to a team that, in my opinion, is one of the front runners for the SEC championship, and team that's definitely going to be competitive in the ACC until Mario Cristobal does Mario Cristobal things. No, I have no problem with Notre Dame still being ranked. I didn't know the AP poll was this old. Like, there was the AP poll in 1948. How'd they even do that? There was no TV. Would they just listen to games on the radio? Did they see box scores? This was even worse. I think it's bad now. How bad was it in the 40s and the 30s? I'm really confused by this. Like, how'd they even do this? Did they just get it in the newspaper and they saw box scores and then they voted on it? There's not much else you could do. Like, even people, we have the AP voters right now watch, I'd assume, some amount of games each week, and it's horrible. How bad was it then?
Do you think that any pollsters, like back in 1949, asked about Missouri and they just said, you don't want to know about my process? Like that idiot out here who moved up Florida after losing to South Florida? I'm sure she feels really bad about it now, he said sarcastically.
Yeah, no, I love how, like, she screws that up and people are like, let's just get rid of the AP poll. Because honestly, it is pointless. No. It doesn't, like, there was maybe a time it mattered, I guess, but then once you got the BCS, it didn't really matter. And then now that you just have the selection committee just going to pick SEC teams now, it also doesn't matter. So, like, what's the point of even ranking teams anymore?
I'll say one reason it matters is because the idiot committee needs the G5 thing shoved in their face so they know what direction. If you just separately ask any of the committee members about the G5, who's the best team, they're not going to know. They'll have 5 different answers. And one will still say Boise. One, I don't know. One might say Temple. Who knows? Actually, Temple's like, they've won a couple games, so it's not even that obscure. They'll get it wrong between FAU and FIU or something like that. That kind of like dumb stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I'm very curious how the AP did this in 1948. Just like years after World War II, how are they ranking teams?
It had to be like on a Wednesday.
Yeah, because they you didn't even have instant communication. Yeah, okay, we can get the AP poll, I think, on Sunday now, because basically I'm assuming they all go to bed at 1 o'clock, they just submit their ballot, or maybe early in the morning, and then you can instantly tabulate it. But was there a phone number they called, and they said, all right, I've got... But then how would they even get... Okay, in the 60s and 70s, in the 70s, 80s, yeah, fine, okay, you have instant communication to some extent, and you can get... But were box scores even published in, like, the Sunday... I don't think they were. Right? Like,
no.
Like, it would have been a day or two before you got full box scores. I'm almost wondering if they all were, like, in New York. They just got a bunch of football writers in New York, and they had the data early because they would have it early, and then they'd vote on, like, maybe Monday. But I don't even know. Like, I'm very curious how this even... So I want to talk to the AP to figure out what they did and also how bad it was comparatively to... Because it must have been horrible. It must have been so bad where they had no idea what they were even doing. Yeah.
No, that sounds like today.
Yeah, it's gotta be worse then. People can actually watch games now. We actually have advanced statistics on this stuff. They had nothing.
Do you think that lady watched any games? Do you think she watches any games?
Probably not.
Because here's the thing. I'm just really quick on this. I can see you like overlooking. I forgot to put this team in. Ohio State played Grambling. Okay, I forgot to put them on my ballot just because they played Grambling. The South Florida game was like the story of that week. You didn't forget that. It's like you don't pay attention to the sport if you make that kind of mistake. If you don't rank South Florida, you move Florida up. It's like you're not paying attention at all. Yeah. But yeah, the 40s should have been really something. It had to be like a Wednesday thing. Okay. All right, victory laps. I'm going back to the Week 0 preview when, again, Jalen Daniels had that awesome performance against Fresno State in Week 0, and I said, look, I don't walk everybody through the whole chain analysis, but basically I said, this is really a bad sign for Nevada and Wisconsin. So Nevada had all of 369 total yards and a 32 apex hosting Middle Tennessee State, who lost by 3 scores to Austin Peay, the Governors, with their awesome logo. And Whiskey had all of 209 yards and an Arch Manning-esque 9 apex at Alabama. Congratulations to both of them. I'm very proud of myself when I call these things out weeks in advance, and it still holds true. So,
yeah, a really good call out on that. And for some reason, Wisconsin is 7.5-point favorites against Maryland. Again, betting on Maryland is a terrifying prospect, but Wisconsin is also not good.
We will talk about Wisconsin in part 2 when we preview week 4 here. I guess you're doing a victory lap about the entire SEC. What am I supposed to think here, Robert?
I mean, we talked about this last week where I'm like, I have no confidence in the entire upper crust of the SEC, and then we see this: Texas being UTEP 27-10, Georgia needing overtime to beat Tennessee, and it's really because like I got a bit lucky because basically once Georgia started coming back, I got Georgia plus 8.5 in money line live. That was beautiful. But the thing is, even then, because Tennessee jumped up to 21 lead, and I thought, okay, Georgia's going to come in and clamp down, and you could see it there. It was 21-17 at the half, and I said, all right, Georgia's going to clamp down on them. They're going to completely shut them down offensively. Georgia's going to win this game by 3 scores. They didn't. Tennessee kept scoring late into that game. And the thing is, this is not the Georgia defense we're accustomed to. Tennessee putting up 41 is not the Georgia defense we're accustomed to. I'm almost getting to the point where I'm not sure if the Philadelphia Eagles are going to draft all of them. They may not draft all of them. They might miss some of them. That's the point here. No, but seriously, though, that's actually a little concerning. If you're a Georgia fan and Tennessee puts up 41 on you, now, okay, I get it's at home. That's fine. But we are far away from the dominant Tennessee defenses of the past. Auburn beating South Alabama by 15. Great. Love that. Ole Miss barely scraping by against Arkansas. Great. And again, look at the table here. I just grabbed the FanDuel odds there for the SEC. Georgia's the number 1 favorite. We just said there's problems there. Texas, I don't even know why they're the second favorite. They really shouldn't be, but they're the second favorite for some reason. Alabama 3. LSU, we've already talked about LSU. That's great. I have no idea why they're the number 4 favorite. Texas A&M, I don't know why they should be like second here or maybe tied with Alabama or something. There's no reason they should be 5th. Oklahoma, again, what are we doing here, guys? That's not how math works. And then Ole Miss and Auburn right behind them. Like, it's the weirdest. I don't understand why these are the way they are. Like, Texas should not be the second favorite. Georgia should be a much bigger favorite. Like, Texas A&M and Oklahoma should be a lot higher up there. And this is not, like, I'm not betting it mostly because I've already gotten them at even higher numbers. Like, I've gotten Oklahoma at 20-something to 1, so I don't care. Whatever. 14-1 is fine. I wouldn't mind betting that if I had an extra, like, $20 or something. But I already have it, so this number's wrong. If you have extra cash lying around in your account and you want to have something on Oklahoma and Texas A&M, like, honestly, I could very easily see a Texas A&M Oklahoma SEC final. It's a very real possibility.
I don't get this where who would look at Texas and say, yeah, I'm definitely going to take plus 290 on them, just specifically them. Georgia, I think, could actually just kind of fake it till you make it their way there. But Texas, just there's so many shortcomings on the offensive side of the ball. This has got to be saying, I don't want more Texas money. I wonder who's running this. You said this is FanDuel?
FanDuel, yeah.
Yeah.
And the odds are similar on other ones, too, but yeah.
Man, but who... If I was doing my own book, I'd just make Texas just plus 500 and say, hit me up, man. Just knock me out. Take all my money. Here I am, dumb bookie. Bank is open, guys. Just rob it now. They're half a team.
Like, what happens? What happens if? Oh yeah, adding on your point. What happens if Oklahoma beats Texas? Is Oklahoma now 2 to win the SEC, and Texas is like 10 to 1? Like, then what was the point then? Right? That's the point, right? Like,
yeah. And you go I'm just gonna go through, then I'll tell you what I'm doing. Kirby 1, DeBoer 2, Kelly 3, Elko 4. I'm tied for 5th. If I have Sark, I have him tied with Venables only because Sark has more experience as a head coach. I've got to lap basically 4 guys that are better coaches than me with kind of equal talent at this point. No, don't see it.
I'd be Georgia 1. I'll keep Georgia 1, but a very small one. Like a 1 and 1A kind of thing. Maybe Georgia's 10 basis points better than Alabama. It's like Georgia 1, Alabama 2, then I think Texas A&M 3 and Oklahoma 4, and then LSU 5. Like, LSU should not be 3. But
LSU's got to be ahead of Texas, though, right?
Oh, no, of course. Yeah, LSU's ahead.
The quarterback can throw the ball.
Without screaming out in pain, yeah.
Yeah, I know, but we don't know what kind of faces he makes on the toilet, though, so that's what we really need to find out about Nussmeier. Okay. All right. And aside from that, things that randomly bugged you. Yeah, I don't know. Explain this to me.
So this is great. So I'm not sure. Were you watching the Texas A&M Notre Dame game?
I was making dinner since the USC game went late. That screwed up my whole schedule. I heard this while I was making seared tuna tacos.
Basically, I was watching the game near the end, and then Notre Dame went down the field, scored to go ahead 6. and then they missed the extra point, and they were only up 6. They missed the extra point, so they weren't up a full score. And then Texas A&M then marched down the field and scored with 20 seconds left or something, and then they eventually won the game by 1 point. But from the missed extra point to Texas A&M scoring, every second nothing was happening. They just always cut to Tyler Buckner. It was so bad. It was literally like, because at one point I wasn't watching the sound on. I'm like, is that Tyler Buckner? And it's, yeah, I'm like, oh, wait, he's still, like, I guess he was the holder because he's the backup quarterback, right? So I guess he's the holder. And they just kept cutting to him. And it's just, here's a picture of him, like, holding his thing like this, and here's a picture of him just having a drink of water. Stop doing this. What are we doing here, guys? Move on. Do something else. Like, we can show it to someone else. Just stop showing Tyler Buckner. Like, we all know, and as someone said, it's like, we all know it's Tyler Buckner's fault. Like, this is the thing. It was bad. It was so annoying. I'm like, what are we doing here, guys? Just do something else. Like, yes, we know Tyler Buckner did this. We know it's his fault that they could lose this game now. Now, to be fair, again, Notre Dame's defense not up to par, right? Again, if Notre Dame's defense, like, again, you still have to drive the length of the field. It's not like it's, oh man, we lost that 1 point. There's no way we can possibly hold them to not a touchdown on this drive. Yeah. This isn't particularly difficult, right? This isn't, oh no, we have to, we can't, like, they're starting on the 30. We have to stop them from, yeah, that's like 75 yards. We just stop them from getting 75 yards of offense in a 2-minute drive. I think we could do that, but no, it's impossible, right? No. Yes, Tyler Buckner made a small mistake. Snaps like that happen all the time. It's not impossible. It's unfortunate it happened to him. But, again, the defense should have been better there. That's the thing. But Texas A&M also just a good team, though, too.
Yes. I'm going to connect 2 dots for you here, and you're going to totally understand why here. Tyler Buckner, that did not cost them the game, as you mentioned, because Texas A&M did have to go the length of the field. You know what that absolutely did cost them, though? Was the ability to cover. And I'm going to tell you, I have no doubt that the director had Notre Dame minus 6.5. And he said, there goes that bet.
Yeah, that is true. Because I had 6.5 too. I thought I had 7. I actually did have 6.5. And when that missed, I'm like, oh, cool, I've won now. It doesn't matter now what happens. So I've won now. So I wanted Texas A&M to win. But yeah, it was like, I had the money line too. But it's, yeah, no, it doesn't really matter what happens here. So. Yeah. If
you were a director, you'd probably be like having like happy. You try to be like joyful shots, even though they're still down by 6 of Mac Elko and stuff. You'd be a totally different dynamic there.
Yeah.
All right, Jimbo Awards. Mine is quick. We've talked about this. I think Jamie Chadwell and his mullet is like Samson and his hair. I can't believe they lost to Bowling Green. Bowling Green, I'm still convinced, is not a good team. I don't know what's going on here. I asked Duck, and he had some helpful guidance, but this is just going in the wrong way, man. Are you going to basically confess your sins of your Ducks actually ruined the whole Liberty thing forever?
Maybe. Liberty was good, and then they beat them in one of the bowls. Was it the Sugar Bowl, maybe?
I think there's a Fiesta Bowl. Does that sound right?
Because of the system, it's impossible to know now. It's just a New Year's Six Bowl. But no, they beat them, and they've never been the same since. They didn't win. They didn't even get close to the conference championship game last year, and they're definitely. I'm not sure they're gonna make a bowl this year. Yeah.
No, those are 2 bad losses. These are like teams that I'm comfortable are not good. But congratulations on beating Maine, though. Well done there.
My Jimbo Awards for Brian Kelly writ large. The thing is, it's really funny. He had this amazing post-game press conference where the first question was asked about his offense, which was incompletely fair. You scored 20 points, and 7 of those points were from a pick 6 against a team that you scored less points than USF last week on the road, and you were at home. And you're supposed to be at the top 3, the number 3 team in the country. And the reporter asked about the offense, and he said, we won. What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? He's like, we won the football game. What do you want? You want us to win by 70? He'd be like, no, but I think you could do a bit better than 20.7, which came from a pick 6. He got so mad and animated, and it's a completely defensible question. There is no reason why you shouldn't be able to answer that question, because there are a lot of questions about your offense. Specifically, a lot of people won't ask this, but people should start asking, hey, why did you only score 17 points against Clemson? Georgia Tech scored more. Troy almost scored more. Actually, did Troy score more? No, they scored the same.
Troy had 16 at half.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. Yeah, so basically Troy scored the same as you, and Georgia Tech scored more than you. Why did you only score 17 against Clemson? Like, these are good questions to ask now. These are fair questions to ask now about your offense. And the fact that it felt a win that felt like a loss, a win and cover that felt like a loss. You needed 5 picks to beat and barely cover the spread against a team that lost to USF last year, and their coach is on the hot seat, and Brian Kelly's on the hot seat as well. It would be really funny if they get to like number 3 in the AP poll now, and then they just like eventually, if at the end of this year they fire Brian Kelly, it'd be funny. But no, there's very clearly something wrong with this team. This offense, especially. Their defense is good, solid, but yeah, their offense has a huge amount of problems. And the fact that one, that you were supposed to be one of the best teams in college football, and this is your offense, and two, that you're so defensive about it that you're asked about it, and you just immediately blow up. Like the thing is, yes, to the media and to the average person, wins and losses matter. But to us, we know about how this works. Wins and losses don't matter as much as points per game and yards per play and all this stuff. We understand how this works. Brian Kelly knows this as well. This is not a surprise to Brian Kelly that wins and losses are less important than yards per play. He understands this. And the fact that he just loses it at the first question about it shows that he's not as serious as people thought.
You picked a really mean picture of him here, and I think in fairness,
I found one. I tried to find the worst things. I screen capped it during the conference. I was like, I want him to look angry. Yeah, that was the goal.
I think he's just scared of being hit by a DJ Lagway pass there. It definitely could have happened. All right, couple of things noted for future reference. Southern Miss, a 74% post-game win probability against App State. I say this because the number actually moved against Southern Miss, which is interesting. I don't know. Some people make a living out of closing line value. I want the best of the number, but if the number moves against me, I cashed, and that's what matters. I got to point out, too, Louisiana quarterback. I mentioned this a little bit last time. So they've had 3 games. Against Rice, they played 2 quarterbacks, which had an apex of -9 and -78. They dipped into positive territory when they played McNeese. Congratulations on that. Quarterback number 2, Daniel Beal, had a -62 apex against Louisiana. His backup, Lunch Winfield, had an apex of -82. This team is in a bad spot. We will talk about them for preview, but this team's got some... I haven't seen anything like this, especially for a guy who's a good offensive mind in Michael DeSormo. So, tough times for the Cajuns. I'm showing my solidarity here with my t-shirt.
Yeah. No, I don't think I've seen an apex. So that's for the Louisiana passing there against Missouri. That's their entire passing line, right?
Yeah, that's both guys that threw a pass combined 2 for 14 for 4 yards.
2 for 4. 2 passes for 4 yards. 2 complete passes. That's a new. No interceptions though. So they beat Florida.
Very clean in that way. So they had a Keon Jenkins or not Keon Jenkins, the other kid, Grayson James.
Yeah.
No Grayson James here.
No,
all right, Robert. That was it. Thank you so much. Good week 3 review. I will talk to you in a moment when we preview week 4. Thank you all for listening in. We will see you in a moment. Until then, bye-bye.